Welcome, 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 one and all, to another episode of A Scotsman Talks To. Just doing my usual side check to make sure I'd actually turned on my mic. So, welcome, and I hope you're all ready for this one. I am incredibly excited about this episode. Tonight we have an amazing guest, a man who had the accolade of being one of the longest Phantom of the Operas, a man that has starred in The Godfather 3, a man that has worked with Barry Manilow. This man has done it all. His list of accolades and achievements, it's just huge. So I am incredibly excited to introduce our guest for this evening, the fabulous, the delightful, the wonderful, and I'm going to mispronounce his name all the way through this because I'm horrible at pronouncing names, but I want to welcome Franc D'Ambrosio to A Scotsman Talks To. Frank, are you there?
Oh, isn't my dog?
I actually kicked mine out the studio because he's just getting too big for it. How are you this evening, Frank?
I'm doing well. So nice to see you again. How you been?
It's amazing. It's been a long time, and it is an absolute pleasure to have you on. Now, I've given the world a little introduction, and I've been raving about this episode for some time, but I think the best thing to do and the most politest thing to do would be just to get you to introduce yourself and tell the world a wee bit about you.
Okie doke. Well, I was born in New York City, in the Bronx, and then lived in the Bronx and then on Long Island. And then right after that, went to college for a little while in Connecticut, and then moved to Manhattan because I got an audition for my first show, and I landed my first audition for my first show. So I moved to Manhattan, and I did that, and then I decided I didn't want to. I was going from show to show, and I was still, under 21 years old, and I wanted to get a little more experience under my belt. So I decided I would move to Italy.
So just a huge leap of faith there in movement.
Completely. I think that's why you have the Italian flag behind me over here, right?
Yeah, it's lovely.
And then you got the Caruso poster right over there. because I thought, if I'm going to study opera, and if I'm going to sing opera and sing operatic types of roles, even though I do a lot of Broadway shows that require a singer to be able to sing Broadway plus also sing opera, I figured I may as well go to the homeland. So I did that, wow. And I got the opportunity. So I studied at the Accademia Vocale di Lucca, which is now the Accademia Vocale Lorenzo Malfatti, and that's in Lucca, in Tuscany. And so I had an opportunity to do that, and then I was accepted to study with Luciano Pavarotti. And so that was a great experience. It was a great experience. Yeah, man. Yeah.
So obviously you're
and because we're talking about Italy, I just decided I'd have just a little libation.
And I'm totally jealous. Most of my viewers know at the moment that I am I'm on a teetotal state, not through my own choosing, which on some advice I think I'll go and speak about in future to get some maybe medical advice on allergies. But anyway, Frank, your pedigree speaks for yourself. I mean, having looked at your Ibidibim profile, which I always have to do, due diligence when you're trying to interview someone, I always love the fact that I do a lot of research and then I find all these interesting and amazing facts, and you have just done it all. You've literally done Phantom, you've done Godfather, you've achieved a wonderful journey. But I think the best place to always start for any interview is right in the beginning. So can you tell us about the way I explain this is, being a storyteller, I kind of took what is known as the hero journey from Joseph Campbell's books, and I kind of looked at it and thought it also makes a very simplistic and nice interview because our audience gets a nice circle of your journey. So Can you tell us Frank's origin story.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when my family came to America from Italy, they were Italian bakers from Sicily, and I was in line to take over my family bakery. I wasn't doing very well in school because I have a learning disability. I've got dyslexia, but there's dyslexia, and then there's dyslexia, right? So and so mine is, so I have a third grade reading level.
Mm.
So I really wasn't, even though I was getting through school, and even though I graduated with Regents diplomas and so forth and so on, it really didn't come easy for me. Even though I was smart, I am smart. It just the way that I was being asked to learn how to learn.
Yeah. Okay. I can understand that.
It was, you can't say to me, go home and read these 5 chapters and come back and you're going to get tested on it. And then, and every spelling mistake you have, you're going to get get a half a point taken off of your grade. It just, I can't spell because of the dyslexia, and I can't comprehend a lot of what I read. So anyway, so I was pretty much in line to take over my family's bakery, but I always had a desire to act, and I always have a real passion for communication, but I also have a real passion for listening, and so I thought I would give try the acting thing. Not even try it. I needed to do it. I needed acting. I needed performance like I needed air. I give master classes around the world, and from Juilliard to the Carabini conservatories, and all over the world. And I say to the students, unless you are a member of the Lucky Club, meaning unless you get off the bus in New York City and you get a job, you're gonna need to do this. Just wanting to do it's never going to be enough, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In my opinion, because the journey that you have to go on, or unless maybe you come from a bucket of money or something like that, where you have some resources behind you. But if you're doing it on your own, you're going to need this like you need air. And in order to kind of really go through everything that you're going to need to do in order to make it in this world. So I needed it like I needed air. If someone said to me, your very first Broadway show is through that brick wall over there, all you have to do is just run through the brick wall. I would ran through the brick wall. So So you need to have great work ethics and stuff. Anyway. So that's where it kind of started out with me. I didn't really sing. I know a lot of people think that I was probably a boy tenor, grew up to be a boy soprano, growing up to be a tenor. But the reality is that that wasn't me. I didn't actually. I'll be honest with you. I didn't even know I could sing until my sister's got an absolutely gorgeous voice, and she was singing. Along with to Carole King's Tapestry album.
Okay.
And then I just was kind of, she was my older sister, so I was always bothering her, and I just mimicked her,
Right.
And all of a sudden it was like, what? And she and I both remember the moment. I remember the song I was singing, and I remember the moment, and it both took us both back because I could sing, and it was loud. I remember it was tonight you're mine completely. Well, completely. I think I threw it. You give your love so sweet. That kind of.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. So I did. That's kind of how it started with me. Then I followed a girlfriend off to college. She went to college to be a singer, and I was like, I didn't even know you could go to a college to be a singer. I'm like, what? I was like, big bread, You go college. College, you go to be a doctor, right? And and so she went off. She was like, "No, this is a place for you to go." I'm like, "Okay, I'll go." So, but luckily for me, in America, you have to have in order to get into schools, into some of the schools, you have to have a really high SAT score, and clearly for me with my reading disability, it wasn't very high. So but luckily I got in on a talent scholarship. So basically all I needed to spell was SAT and they let me in,
Wow.
So, yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
So that I love that because I've obviously heard you sing. I've been very lucky and that blew me away. But I myself, until I had kind of read up on you, didn't realize that your first line was acting. You've got a fairly, you'd tried to establish yourself, and you did establish yourself, should I say, in acting. I didn't. I'm just very quickly scanning. What roles have you done, Frank? Because that's the one thing I couldn't quite source.
For
acting, what was your break in the acting?
The very first, I approach even all my Broadway shows and all my the Broadway stuff that I've done. I always approach it from an acting standpoint.
Yes, that makes sense.
So I think probably one of my big breakthroughs was my first Broadway show was Sweeney Todd. Yeah. And so that was it's interesting how I got that, to tell you the truth. Again, needing it like you need air, right?
Yeah.
So they were putting out a national tour of Into the Woods, and I was young enough to play Jack, and I knew the casting director, and she said, "No, I don't think you're right for this role." And I'm like, "Well, listen, I won't say her name. She was a wonderful casting director, but she wasn't." And she was a really wonderful casting director, actually. Anyway, but she said, "No, you're not right for this role." And I said, "Look, I want to be seen for this role." She said, "Well, I'm not going to give you an appointment." I'm like, "Well, then I'll just wait in line with the other, actors until I get to go in and sing and that's what I'm going to do." And she didn't believe I was going to do that, but I did, and I went in, and then all of a sudden, the person who was music directing that was Paul Giamagnani, the famous Paul Giamagnani. And so I sang, and so Paul goes, "That was great. That was great, Frank. That was, It was like we had a little Guido moment. "God, great, man." So he said, "I want you to come back next week, and I want you to to have a callback." And I'm sure, great. And I'm like, "Look, I know that the casting director is going to intervene the moment I get out of this room by saying he's not the right whatever." I'm like,
"Yeah,
Paul, I'll be back." And sure enough, I did go back. Right. The person who was playing the piano that particular day was a friend of Paul Giamagnani's. He's a conductor, but he just happened to have the day free, and Paul wanted him to play the audition. And but all of a sudden I'm leaving the building, and this man comes running down the street, and he was the pianist. And I thought to myself, what happened? Did I forget my music? At the audition. And he goes, "Hey, Frank, hey, listen, he said, that was a really good audition, and Paul really wants to see you next week." He said, "But I'm doing the new production of Sweeney Todd on Broadway. Do you want to do it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, are you playing the piano for it?" And he goes, "No, I'm the conductor." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah." So almost every single show that I ever have done, I've always gotten, not necessarily because I was auditioning for that particular show.
Oh, wow.
Let me give you an example. So here I was auditioning for Into the Woods, and I got Sweeney Todd. Then I auditioned for Chris and Miss Saigon later, a number of years later. and they said, "Hey, you're not right for Chris, but we're putting together a new production of Phantom of the Opera. Do you want to do Phantom?" And then there was another with Copacabana as well. They had me going in for the role of Rico, and I went in and I sang, and they were like, "Do you want to do the role of Tony?" I'm like, "Well, what's that role of Tony? You know, Tony sails across the bar, across the front." So it's the lead, and I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I'll do that."
yeah, just whatever.
Yeah, there.
I'm easy.
Yeah, exactly. And then even the next show that I'm going to be doing, which is I'm going to be doing going to London to do a new opera, new adaptation of Orpheus. And interesting is that I was speaking to the director. The director asked me if he's doing a Netflix thing, and asked me if I wanted to be a part of this Netflix, this Netflix that project. And then right in the middle of the talking about the TV series, he said to me, he said, "You're an Italian citizen, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah, I've got dual citizenship. I'm American and Italian. I have 2 passports." And he said, "You want to come to London and play and do Orpheus?" I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, we've been searching. We searched all of London. We searched all of the former Phantoms and everything. They were all really good, but they didn't have what we needed, and we want you to do it." I think he goes, "I'm going to talk to the composer," and I think so. Again, so the point is that you can be auditioning for one thing, but you're really auditioning.
Yeah.
Every director that I've auditioned for, they're doing 5 shows at once. They're not just doing one show. And I'm often cast in their other shows, and that's one of the reasons why I've got this new
Yeah.
And is because
there's nothing wrong with that, Frank.
No. Is because I'm getting ready to go back to London, and they wanted, so the role that I'm playing is a pretty mean, autocratic kind of dictator, kind of that guy,
Yeah.
the mean guy, which there's a fair amount of current examples in the world.
Oh yes, yeah. Well, you've got lots of material to work from.
Oh yeah, don't I? Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It's such great. That's amazing. I love the fact that every show, or shall we say not every show, but the majority of shows have led to something else. And I will be honest, Sweeney Todd, I didn't even know that, and that is one of my favorites. I absolutely love Sweeney Todd. So that's just
great.
me happy.
Yeah, and it was great when we worked with Stephen Sondheim, the composer.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and he was great, and have all my notes from him and my scores and stuff like that. I had worked with him a couple of times. I did Sweeney, and then also a Little Night Music. I did a Little Night Music a fair amount with Glynis Johns. When she played it, the 20-year reunion. Well, I mean, the 20-year reunion, 20-year. When she came back, and she was the original Desiree Armfeld, who played things, isn't send in the clowns, da 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 da, but now 20 years later, she was actually playing the Hermione Gingle role, and that was Liaison. What's happening? She actually was playing her own mother.
That's fantastic. I love it.
It was really great with Jonathan McMartin. It was supposed to be with Lee Remick, and then Lee Remick got ill, and so she couldn't do it, and the great Lois Nettleton took it over, and
fantastic.
I digress.
Oh no, it's okay. I'm loving it. So we've got a wee question come through. If you do Broadway and went and studied in Italy, do you speak or perform in other languages? Sing, for example, in Italian or other languages? Or is that just part of the job anyway?
I think if I'm understanding the question, if for Broadway, if you're going to be on Broadway, do you need to sing in other languages?
Well, no, it's what it is you do Broadway and you've studied in Italy. So the question is, do you perform in other languages as well?
Or, no. Over my career, I've sung in, gosh, especially if you're going to study, I've sung in English, French, German, Spanish, Italian, Latin, but I guess, that's Russian. Did I say Russian?
No, you have now.
Czech, and Hebrew.
And do you actually speak all these languages, or is it simply through the medium of the song? I'm curious about this one.
Yeah, no. I have a good grasp of many of the languages, but the only other language that I'm very comfortable with, it would be Italian.
Yeah.
Even when I said, it's interesting. I went to Taiwan and I sang in Taiwan. I sang Othello in Taiwan. I was Cassio.
Okay.
With Bruno Sebastian and Maria Pellegrini, and so the opera is in Italian. So when we went to rehearse it was a complete international cast. Actually, Maria Pellegrini is from Canada. It's Canadian. Bruno Sebastian, of course, was Italian, and then and the rest of the cast was all international, like from Japan, from China, from everywhere. And when we got there, not everyone spoke English.
Okay.
But because we were singing in an Italian opera, we all communicated. All the rehearsals and everything were in Italian.
Okay.
So you just kind of find the common language, and often the default one is English. But if that doesn't happen, then you default into the language of the opera. That's interesting. It's been my experience. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and actually makes perfect sense because within the language that you've learned for the opera, virtually everything you need will be there, and the occasional word which you would probably not use in an everyday conversation.
yeah, absolutely. Actually, recently was actually maybe about 8 years ago now. I started a vocal academy in Lucca. The academy that I had gone to school with, which was the Accademia Vocale di Lucca, morphed into the Cincinnati Conservatory of Music's program, summer program, and then it went to Spoleto, and then we did it down in Spoleto, and I would go there after Phantom of the Opera was when I finished Phantom. I would go and I would basically volunteer for the summer to teach, and it's a little small stipend, And sorry, just had an itch on my foot. I gotta.
No, that's okay.
I'm taking a little time off now because 2021 is going to be, between. Anyway, the point is that I have a mosquito bite on my foot because I was out in my garden, and I'm taking this time right now to grow lettuce and tomatoes and stuff like that.
We all are. It's crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, 2021 is going to be super, super busy with Orpheus.
Yeah.
And then right after that, I go back on the road with the Four Phantoms.
Yeah.
We're doing. We just got the schedule. We're packed for 2021, actually into 2022, all over the world.
Now, I presume that doesn't include Calgary, Alberta, because nobody ever comes to Calgary, Alberta to do a show for some reason.
Well, if I have anything to say about it, we're coming to Calgary, Alberta.
Excellent. I think I owe you a drink or something. So actually, a friend of mine, Nick, who does a lot of theatre work, has got a really nice question here. What is your process when studying for a specific role?
Nick, you're speaking my language now. One of the joys that I have is actually in preparation for roles. And essentially I give master classes based on the merging of both musical and dramatic intent. So if you're just going to sing, it's going to be, it's pretty. And if you're just going to act, that's great. But if you have to do music, I always said that the best singers on Broadway are the people that are in the chorus. Those are the best singers. And there were times even when I did Phantom and so forth, I was like, hearing people that were singing, I'm like, these individuals are amazing. How come they're not, and they were some of them were my understudies and stuff like that. And then I would go to see them in rehearsal, and I would say, and they had these absolutely gorgeous voices, but they didn't. I got to put the dog down for a second. I guess I got to. They don't have to you have to merge both the music and the dramatic intent.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't and you have to be able to merge the music and the dramatic intent and move the storyline forward in song.
Okay.
Because if you let's say you're going to do a role, I don't know. Let's say I don't know, give a super hard role. Let's say like George in Sunday in the Park with George, right? Or Phantom. Let's put it that way. Even in Phantom, because people are more familiar with that.
Yeah.
People would if you're there were times when I had two understudies. I had understudy and then an understudy's understudy. And there were a few times, and these men were amazing. I mean, amazing singers, amazing and great gentlemen. But they didn't put they tried to. They knew how to sing, but they were having a hard time putting the acting together with that. So what they would do is they would go in and they would try. They knew they could sing their faces off, but they were maybe a little insecure about their acting aspects of things. I would think, or maybe not as studied, and so they would start pushing the acting moments.
Okay. I think I know where you're coming from here. Yeah.
into the voice.
Yeah.
And the voice wasn't able to support the acting choice.
Yeah.
And they would lose their voice. I mean, there were more than a few times that I actually had to get called back from vacations because my two understudies had blown their voices out during the week.
Wow.
One did 4, the other one did 4. They did 3 and 3, and they called me back and they said, he lost his voice. Can you come back and do the 2? And I'm like, sure. So it's about, and again, these guys were amazing, but it's about pacing yourself. It's about knowing your voice, and your technique is really put in place in order to healthily serve and service the emotions of the character 8 times a week.
Mm.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So anyway, what I do is every time I get a new role, I start trying to excavate the emotional background of the individual.
Right.
What gets them out of bed in the morning, what they like, what don't they like, what do they do? I use the Jungian theories of the dark the dark side, the shadow side. I think it's called the shadow side, and to really understand what some of the actors' subconscious motivators might be, where their wounds are, even if I'm playing a happy role, I will look to see where the scars are in their and what they're trying to, and how they're trying to overcome that.
Yeah.
In their life.
Yeah, it's very similar to the storytelling kind of concept as well.
Tell me a little. Will you tell me a little more about that? Because I remember the first time when we met, it was in California, and we had that great time with our friends.
Oh yes,
that weekend
barbecue or something's where I met. God, yeah, a random house garden party. Oh, geez, it was amazing.
It was it was the best potluck I've ever had in my life. I have such good memories from that. Yeah.
Those just seeing that city in that area.
Yeah, and you had met the host in Edinburgh, right? And he said, "This guy is incredible. Oh my God, what do you say? He's a storyteller." I'm like, "What? What do you mean?"
Stop it!
He said,
Stop
no, dude. And he's like, he's a storyteller, and I'm like, I never knew that there were professional storytellers. And then I was like, I'm like, wait, I'm an actor. I tell stories, until I met you. And then
well, that's the thing. It's a bit like your origin story as well. I did an apprenticeship in storytelling in Edinburgh, and I didn't know that sort of thing existed.
I know it blew my mind when you explained that to me, and then I actually saw how you do it, and I was like, "Wow!"
But it's
really
it's very much
whole art form that I was like, I had such a huge respect for, and I didn't know. I'm sorry to say, I felt very ignorant, but I simply didn't know, because I hadn't spent a lot of time up in that part of the world where I think it's more prevalent than, let's say, Southern Europe or in America.
Yeah. Oh no, I mean, it's in a way, the way I look at what I do is very similar. But what we all do as performers is we tell stories, and what you were saying about how you get ready for a role is kind of very similar to what I would do.
But the difference I can say is when you're an actor, you're living a story.
Yes.
With us, acting is, in my definition, is living truthfully underneath imaginary circumstances, right? But when you tell us, you weave a story. You take us in. You're not thus the character. You're telling us about the character, and I thought that's even more difficult.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. My goal is just basically to take you on a wee journey, while I'm telling the story. But it's similar to when you're doing one of your shows. We're traveling along in that journey, a little bit more of a visual journey.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Because there's those elements that we can look at as well.
Yeah.
But they're all, everything we do is storytelling.
Yeah.
Every song you sing is telling a story. Every character you play is telling a story.
That's true. That is absolutely true. Yeah.
So I think the one thing everyone wants to know about, because, it is a huge part of your life, and you've mentioned it a couple of times, and a lot of people have been so excited when I've said who you are and that you're coming on, is Phantom.
Oh,
everyone wants to know about Phantom.
This is the original Phantom mask right here.
Really?
Yeah, that's it.
They let you keep it?
Yeah. It was my going away present.
Wow.
So look, that's what it looks like.
So that is the original one that you wore for how many shows?
2,300 performances.
Oh my goodness.
A lot of people want to know how it fits on your head, and because we haven't put it on our face, but and there's a wire here.
Yeah.
You can see it. There's a wire there, and it goes all the way around the back.
Yeah.
So, I'm seeing it.
Molded to your head meticulously?
Yeah, meticulously molded to literally. And then it just basically sits on. It looks like it's just like stuck on your face, but in fact, people don't see. And then, of course, when I was doing the show, all of us have to wear wigs, and they dye. They spray paint this wire the same color as the brown wig, and so that's why. So then it goes right into your hairline, and you don't see it.
That's amazing. And
that's how it's done. And it's made of leather and plastic.
Wow. Oh wow! So it's very durable.
Yeah. See, you can wait. Let me see if I can. Sorry, brother.
So how many of these did you actually have during the show, or is this like the one that you had for 2,300 shows?
This is the one that I always like to wear. Every once in a while, it would crack, and then they would fix it. You can see some of the. I don't know if you can see some of the cracks, and I don't know if you can see some.
Of
some of the cracks in there, and they would chips on the nose, and then they would take them away, and they would send them back, and to get them refixed, and then they would send us. But I kind of had you have your favorite, the one that fits. The one that helps you in who your character is. So it's like so you have to have that,
I love it, Frank. Absolutely love it. Obviously 2,300 shows, I mean, that's huge. And you were at one point, or does it still stand, the longest running Phantom, or has that now been overtaken?
That was overtaken. No. Look, I forget the guy's name. What was his name? I'll remember by the end of the interview. Um, and but I thought, people say, you lost the title. I'm like, no, I didn't lose the title. The guy earned the title.
Yeah, that makes sense.
On Broadway, we do 8 shows in 6 days, and God bless. I know how hard it is. It's to live the lifestyle that's necessary in order to do a show like this every single night, 8 shows a week, with the makeup and
That's yeah.
I mean, you're carrying the show. You're carrying,
And
even though
how many years was that for, Frank? Sorry.
almost 8 years.
8 years. I thought it was 9, but 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So
And
how is it to play one role singularly for 8 years?
Well, actions always follow in life. Actions follow intentions.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And my intention was to always give an opening night performance. So nothing ever came close to, if let's say I was tired,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't speak for the entire day. I was always investing and reinvesting in the character.
Right.
I was always searching. Let me see. I'm losing. Of course, I'm an actor. I'm losing my light. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can.
Oh, yes. Delightful.
Okay. I'm actually in my billiard room. I'm not sure if that's such a big billiard table behind.
Oh yeah, I can vaguely. Yeah, it's covered. What looks like an ancient tapestry.
It's covered with an ancient tapestry, actually. Yeah.
Oh. You can't tell I'm from Europe and notice those things.
Exactly. Yeah. So I would do whatever it took, and I always was continuously reinvesting in the character, and
Right.
I was listening. I was always, and there was a part in Fan when Christine is talking to the Vicomte de Chagny, Raoul.
Mm-hmm.
And they were reminiscing about their time together as children, and blah blah blah. And I'm behind the mirror, listening to everything. And he said, "Remember the nights, the days we used to spend up in the attic?" And she said, "Yes." And then he said, "And the chocolates." And then I realized that chocolates back then were considered aphrodisiacs.
Ooh.
And I thought to myself, Christine was a little hussy. My little Christine was maybe not so innocent.
Oh.
And which, of course, come on, I wish not a hussy, but my point is, it's basically like, sneaking a beer. So she had a little bit of that other side, right? And then I thought to myself, well, that made the Phantom have to be even more dominant, more controlling, more whatchamacallit. And so, yeah, and I learned that 4 years into the run.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, I mean,
so constantly evolving.
It was constantly evolving. Yeah, amazing. Exactly. Yeah.
We've got Nick is he's made a comment. Great scene. The reflection was great. He is a big fan of the Phantom. He has admitted that he's geeking out.
That's good.
He's a good friend of mine in Canada, and he's just he loves doing his theatre. But he was very excited when he heard it was yourself coming on. So he's just like, he's enthralled at the moment. This is good. So 8 years, constant working, evolving. I love the fact that you were creating and developing the character instead of, which I'm sure a lot of people just take a character and okay, there's the script. I know the kind of idea behind them. I've got an idea and just run with it for a short run of a show. But you've actually always forced that kind of evolution.
from the first day to the last. I learned something about my character from the first day to the last day.
I love that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was doing a show a while back because I don't do a lot. I mean, I do mostly concerts now. I'm on the road. But every once in a while I take a break to do a Broadway show or do a book show, and the director wanted me to give him a result, an emotional result of the character in rehearsal. And I said, look, I want to give that to you, but that person's, you're not going to see that person for another 2 weeks. I can't, I have to open this way. If not, like a rose, you have to open it. You have to discover. I mean, I think that I'm eventually going to get to the place where the director wanted me to be that day.
Yeah.
But I'm an actor. If you ask me to cry, I'll ask you which eye you want the tear to come out of, right? But that's not acting.
Mm-hmm.
Acting is living truthfully underneath the imaginary circumstances, and you have to let that character evolve. You have to kind of find that guy, and not. But but the director needed what he needed to do, and so I gave what I believe was the result. But you never want to shoot for a result.
Yeah.
You want it to evolve, and
yeah,
that's just
organically.
That's just my technique. I mean, everyone's got their own thing. Hey, you want to see something real quickly? Right,
please.
Give me a second. So this is the guitar.
I was just going to say, right.
That string is this is the guitar that I played in Godfather.
Yes.
Yeah. And when I sang the Academy Award-winning song.
Yeah.
Brucia la luna in cielo e io brucio d'amore. Fuoco che si consuma come lume cuori. L'anima chiace, adorata, non si tapasci ma chi malato. So that's actually singing in Sicilian.
Wow.
That's not singing in Italian. Anyway, so you can see, sorry about this. You can see the whole cast signed my guitar.
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry, brother. It's hard to do.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Everything is backwards on this. Sophia. Hey, what is this one? Hey, brother. What is Sophia Coppola write? Freak. What did she write? Freak out. Big kisses, bro. Love, Sophia. And she put, let me see. Wait a second. Oh, sorry, brother.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
And she put a big peace sign. Like there it is, Sophia. She put O in the middle of the O. Sorry, man. It's hard to. It's so difficult to do with the because
you need to go the other way. To your left.
Sophia.
Yeah, gotcha.
With a little peace sign on it.
Yeah. That's brilliant.
She's gone on to have a nice career as a director, huh?
Yeah. So you've done amazing stuff, Frank. Obviously, The Godfather. You played the son, Anthony
Corleone.
Yes.
Al Pacino and Diane Keaton's opera singing son.
Yeah.
And
what was that? I mean, that was a huge thing to step into, obviously, because I mean, for any actor, you're walking into because it was just the third one you were in.
Yeah, just the third. I was too young.
So you're walking in on a huge trilogy that's already exploded in the world, and you're coming into the third and final act, technically, of it. I mean, how was that?
Well, it's interesting because it was actually Francis Coppola sent five talent scouts on a 2-year search to find my character.
Wow.
So he did one international search and two national searches because Francis wanted to make sure that the person who played the role looked enough like Al Pacino and Diane Keaton, or looked Italian, but not, because Even though I'm Italian, I'm Italian and Hungarian, so I've got that, that thing going. So I'm not 100% in that way, but so I could, but look more Italian than, so a combination between between like Diane Keaton and Al Pacino, have to be young enough to be their child, but also be able to sing the role of Cavaliere Rusticana, which is a very difficult role to sing. It's often sung by dramatic tenors that are not in their early 20s. Where I was, I mean, no, it's very, very rare you find someone to do that and connect and actually sing the roles. And I was doing Sweeney Todd on Broadway at the time.
Okay.
And I got an audition for the show, for the movie, and I had never auditioned for a film before.
Okay. So
it was my first audition for a film.
Was it very different to what you were used to, or just another audition?
It was the same process. It was I mean, the acting technique, the acting technique is the same. The camera technique is different.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So on camera, all you need to do is think what your character is doing and considering.
Okay.
And often it reads. It reads in the eyes. As a matter of fact, when we were on set too, Mario Puzo, who wrote the Godfather, Godfather, was on the set.
Okay.
And we spent a lot of time. He's a great guy. He was a great guy. And so he was writing the script with Francis Coppola during the whole process while we were in Rome doing it at Cinecittà, and he said, and so everyone would like have their lines, like blah blah blah. I don't know, so I love you, whatever, and then what I realized after seeing the dailies, when you go in and look at that, if let's say Diane Keaton looked at Al Pacino and said in her eyes, "I love you," the words were cut. Okay. So I think with film, I think it tends to be, I think still to this day, it tends to be a silent movie, a silent medium. Because ultimately, if you can say the words with your looks, with your gesture, then the words themselves are not necessary.
Yeah.
And it's that. And I used to see, and I have all the revision. I have all the scripts, all the revision scripts, and everything like that. So I know I saw what was said, and I know what was supposed to be said at that particular moment, and then I know that it wasn't said. But it was said in the eyes. So
fantastic!
Yeah,
wow,
it's pretty fascinating.
So a great experience, and just again, I love how you've got all these nice wee stories about people, and then it's like the author, you obviously had a great time meeting him, and you had a great time meeting this person, and I find that fantastic because it's just like sometimes you meet people. I've had it a couple of times. You meet someone who's your idol, or you're like, oh, wow, and they prove just to break your heart.
Yeah.
But from what I'm seeing, it sounds like you have just been very fortunate that everyone you've met for your career, well, I'm not going to make that broad statement. The majority of people that you have met for your career have been just like such a joy to be around, and you've just connected with. That's just fantastic.
That was also like with Barry Manilow.
I don't even start. See, I'm jealous. I love Manilow's music. It is my dark musical secret.
It's interesting at Barry's house. Like some people like to, there are people like there are people in the world. There are two people in the world: those that like Barry Manilow's music, and those that will admit it.
I actually have admitted it many times. I've got vinyl upstairs of Barry Manilow.
And he knows that as well, and at his house, he lives now in Palm Springs. Okay. And I've been to the house many times, and in the house he has a recording studio.
I can imagine, yeah, and it'll be mind blowing, no doubt.
Yeah, oh, it's incredible, right? And in the recording studio, there's like, a little kitchenette area, and in the kitchenette area, he has framed all these cartoons of like literally the entire wall is covered. The walls are covered with cartoons about Barry Manilow.
Okay.
Some being like totally great, and the other things being a little kind of giving him a little shade.
Okay.
And I was in there, and we were just hanging out. And he said, you want to know what my favorite one is, Frank? I'm like, yeah, show me your favorite one. And he was right above the key, right above the door, and it was Popeye and Brutus, right? The other his like Popeye the Sailor Man.
Yeah.
And you see all it is a picture of Popeye punching Brutus in the face, and Brutus like falling back like that. And he has the caption over his head is, "What do you mean you don't like Barry Manilow?"
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, it's great. Anyway, so when I met Barry, it was in the final. I was doing Valentino in New York City. I was playing. It was a life story of Bruno Valentino, and I was playing Valentino at the time with the great. It was just a great show. And so my agent calls me up and says, "Look, they're doing Copacabana. It was in London for 4 years. It broke a lot of records over there. They're bringing it to America, and they want to know if you want to be a part of it." And I'm like, "Yeah, I would love to be part of it." So they sent me in again, like I mentioned earlier on, for Rico, the bad guy.
Yeah.
And I got in and I sang, and they were like, "You're not. Are you interested in doing Tony?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they said, "Okay, listen, learn this new song, and come on back, and we'll have you sing for Barry Manilow." And I'm like, "Okay." So because like Barry, like I grew up, like I learned how to sing in my room, but when I was a kid, singing to James Taylor, Barry Manilow, Carole King, and Neil Sedaka. I mean, these were the people that I sang to, and especially his one voice album, just one voice singing in the darkness. That one, and it was like the really hard note. Shout it out and let it sing, just one. It was like this really super high note, and I'm like, if I can learn how to sing that note, I can have a career, So I kept pushing in with a really super high note. Anyway, so I sing, so I get brought back, and Barry Manilow was there.
Wow.
He's sitting there, and this, it's the table, there's like the director, the choreographers, of this, and that, everyone's right there, the assistants to the assistants.
So just, no pressure.
Yeah, like there are pilots. I mean, everybody's there, and so, and this is in New York, and they said, and so I start singing. So they wanted me to sing the song, and it was, who needs to dream when there is you? Who needs a heaven to look forward to? It was like this love song that he had written.
Yeah.
And he didn't like the way the pianist was playing the song. So he came over and he asked the pianist to stop playing, and he came over and he played the piano for my audition.
Oh wow!
And here I am going, right. And so here I'm going. Who needs to? And I'm like, who needs to dream when there is you? Who needs to have it? And I stop. I'm like, okay. Like I stop. Like, okay, stop. You don't realize this is totally surreal for me right now. Okay. I just have to say it. All right, let's take it from bar 7, and then I continue.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That's amazing. Okay, so I now have a new goal here. Yep. I need to get Barry Manilow on this show.
Yeah, he will give you a great interview. So I was saying, and so then finally, when I started working with him, when we was doing the rehearsals, he said to me, "Hey," and I said, and he said, he gave me some compliments and stuff. I said, "Well, Barry, the reason why I could sing that note was because of your One Voice album, and everyone will sing, the high note." He goes, "That note, that's so high." He goes, "You know how many times it took me to take that and get that note?" He said, "We spent the entire afternoon trying for me to actually be able to sing that one note." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I thought you were able to do that every single time." And of course, I'm sure he probably could have, but maybe he was tired, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But the point was that I aspired to sing the highest note that he could sing. And then he said that how hard it was for him to sing it. And I'm like, well, I thought I needed to have that 8 shows a week. And sure enough, I did for a career. So,
amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Frank, we haven't even touched half the things I wanted to talk about. We're at an hour already. And I don't want to take too much of your time.
Let's come back another time then, if you want.
Yeah, you know what? We might have to do a second part to this interview because I don't want to hold you too much longer. What I'd like to do now is we'll move into the end game, and I might get you a second time round because I think I don't even think we've never even talked about your time with Pavarotti or any, so much stuff to talk about.
Okay.
So we're going to wrap up very soon because, as I say, you need to refill your glass and check your lettuce.
Over the hour, I filled it twice already. So yeah, I think I'm okay.
Oh, that's awesome. Frank, the next section is a little bit of fun. This is something I asked my guests to send in 10 silly quick-fire questions.
Okay.
They don't need thought. I promise you it's not a psychological assessment.
Well, good luck with that with me.
So these are literally just a wee bit of fun, and it's just, it just shows a different side for every interview. So let's begin. What is the correct way to put a toilet roll on the roll?
When you can roll it down.
Perfect. That is the correct answer. Pineapple on a pizza, yes or no?
No fucking way.
Not even with black olives?
Excuse my language of it, but no, come on, I'm Italian. Put a pineapple on a pizza. They would take away my passport.
I knew that one would get you, actually. What's your view on garden gnomes?
Garden gnomes?
Garden gnomes.
Ridiculous.
Wouldn't touch your garden. Okay. If you had a superpower, what would it be, and would you use it for good or evil?
Well, I would use it for good, and my superpower would be that everybody would understand what love is.
Oh, you big romantic. I like that. Okay. Why did the chicken cross the road?
To get on the other side.
Okay. I was expecting a phantom joke or something. No,
yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite kitchen utensil and why?
The tongue things, because I bake a lot of bread because family. So I instead of burning my hands, I use those tongue things.
The tongs, excellent. Okay. Okay. This one might not be so relevant to you. What's the worst job you've ever done?
Copacabana. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, I'll edit. No, I can't edit. It's live.
No, there was certain challenges with one or two with just one cast person that was
right. So just the usual.
Quite unpleasant to have to kiss 8 times a week. Let's just put it that way. So that would be it.
Okay, we'll move on.
Okay.
Again, this one might be not as relevant to you. Do you? What's your musical guilty pleasure?
I like French rap.
The storyteller went silent for a moment. French rap. I
like
love it.
I
Okay.
love French rap.
Really?
Yeah.
I have never heard it. I'm now right. I'm taking a note. French rap.
Yeah, you're gonna love it.
Okay.
I'm not
I
kidding.
like to develop my skill set. Okay. Who would play you in a biopic of your life?
Who would play me in a biopic of my life? The Al Pacino. I don't know.
Oh, you know what? I kind of thought it, little role reversal there. I like it.
Yeah, exactly.
If you were stuck in an elevator with one person, who would it be?
Pope Francis.
Pope Francis? Interesting. Nice. Good choice. Okay, and lastly, you're about to get in a fight. What is the theme music that plays in your head?
Da-da-da, da-da-da.
Going for an old classic? I like it. Frank, that's amazing. So the last question I like to ask every guest, it's a very similar one, but actually Luke asked earlier something, and I kind of decided to hold it back. Luke is basically a developing actor. He's somebody that's come into the performance community in the last few years, and he's still progressing and learning. So his question is, do you have any advice about adopting and adapting differing acting styles and methods to the one's own acting process?
Yes, 100%. So what I studied many different acting styles. So you have like Boleslavsky, Stanislavski, Stella Radler. You could do the Meisner method. You can do you name it. You could do the actor studio, and I find that it's very important to know all of those, understand the basics of absolutely all of those, and then go to the one that resonates to you. But don't ever have to abandon that. None of the one that you like is right for you, but the ones that you don't like doesn't mean that they're wrong. So go with the one that feels right for you. Be aware of the other acting styles and the other acting teachers, and utilize the best of what you understand from every one of those, but move forward with the one that resonates most to how you understand and how you hear it inside yourself. There's never been one show or one movie or one TV project or even when I'm doing recordings, because I always approach it from an acting standpoint first and foremost. That I haven't used something from every single one of those great master teachers, and I put them together, and I make sure that those skills, those words of wisdom, the essence of what what those other teachers are saying, they're very valid at certain times throughout one song sometimes.
That's great. Thank you. And finally, just what would be your advice? I mean, that one was fairly specific. What would kind of be your advice for somebody coming into the arts? Is there some sort of words of wisdom? What's your Yoda-esque phrase that you could impart to someone?
And I think we talked about this earlier on. Need it.
Yeah.
Need it. Just wanting it might not be enough to put you to make you go through many of the things that will be necessary in order to even land your first show, let alone make a career of it. So need it.
Yep.
And learn how to sing. Every single person, you'll never get hired on your potential. You'll get into school on your potential, and that's what that's how it's supposed to get. But you will never in New York or anywhere else really get hired on your potential. So learn how to sing, get your acting skills under your belt, make sure you can move well and take dance classes and so forth as well. and be prepared. And because, you can get through your first 6 months of your first Broadway show on fear alone,
Right.
But everything else after that is technique.
Wow.
Technique.
Wonderful.
So yeah, that's
Franc.
that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Franc, this has been absolutely brilliant, and I'm sorry, but yes, I'm going to have to drag you back on. I think we could. I honestly think we could probably go for a good few hours, but I don't want to hold you. I know you've got a life to live. You've got that beautiful dog, and
I've got a beautiful dog, and as a matter of fact, I'm going out into the garden tonight, and I'm going to get a number of vegetables for dinner this evening, and I'm taking the time until 2021. So I'm actually taking a full break right now in order to and then get ready and for it to launch everything in 2021 again.
Yeah.
I have been busy. I have been on the road for 30. And I've been doing this over 30 years.
Wow.
And have the last, I would say, almost 20 years I've been on the road singing concerts and so forth. So for me, it's been a lot of fun it's been nice to just decide to take a bit of a break, because I know I'm going to be shot out of a cannon in 2021. So
it's actually a sentiment a lot of people who have been touring and doing a lot of work are feeling. There's some people grumbling.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of people, Johnny Summers, a previous guest, said the same thing. He actually said, although it's been forced, it's actually quite nice just to be able to go boom and stop and breathe.
Yeah. I had the option of not stopping, and doing other things, and radio and voiceovers, and
you do what you love.
TV and that kind of stuff like that, and podcast, but when you called and you said, "Hey, do you want to do this?" I was like, I'm going to take a break from my gardening. I'm going to go visit my old friend.
I totally appreciate. You know what, Frank? When I actually sent you that message, I was thinking, "Oh, Frank won't. He'll be too busy." So when you said you would come on, I was like, Krista was basically had to put up with me jumping about like a school child. I was like, yay! And also just for the chance to see your face and catch up again, which has been an absolute pleasure.
The pleasure's been truly mine. Give my best.
Has been. Thank you so much, Frank. So, Frank, thank you for joining us. I promise you I'm going to get you back on because I want to continue this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pop you back into the green room while I close off the show, and I'll come back and just speak to you in a couple of minutes off air just to thank you properly. Ladies and gentlemen, Franc D'Ambrosio. I always get your surname wrong.
Don't worry about it.
Oh, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I'm going to have to get Frank back on. I could speak to him and listen to those stories for hours. So thank you very much all for joining this evening. I hope you did enjoy that. I'm just blown away, having met this man and heard him sing in person, just in the back garden. It was pretty awesome. On Thursday, we have another show coming up, and it's a little bit of a different one. It's a podcast show. We are speaking to the Mess Hall podcast, a couples podcast about food. Husband and wife, Avery and I'm going to say Lena or Lana. That's terrible. I've forgotten her name. Will be on the show. However, I will say in advance, it is going to be a pre-recorded show on that occasion. Unfortunately, we had to change it to a pre-recorded because Avery had a little bit of a change of circumstances. So that will be our first pre-recorded show and not live. So sadly, you cannot comment on that one. However, if you do have any questions in the meantime, email them before we do the pre-record. So thank you very much for joining me, ladies and gents. Do remember, if you are a performer or in the arts and wish to be on the show, I have a huge list of guests, but I'm looking for more constantly. So if you have anyone that you know wants to be on, recommend someone to me. There is my email scrolling at the bottom of the screen. But with that in mind, folks, I want to thank you again. I'm going to go and have a laugh with Frank for another couple of minutes and just thank him properly. And I want to thank you all for joining me on this episode of A Scotsman Talks To.